We explored how Essbase determines calculation order and how CalcDim gives you an explicit control over the sequence. Now let's zoom out and answer a bigger question. When should you rely on outline calculation and when should you write a custom calculation script in a modern hybrid BSO cloud application? This is one of the most important design decisions for EPBCS developer because calculation strategy directly impacts the performance, scalability, and maintenance. In traditional Essbase BSO systems, developers commonly use CALC ALL command. Essbase would walk through the entire outline, calculate every stored member, aggregates all the dimensions, and stores the result physically in the queue. For older on-premise application, this worked well. But hybrid BSO in EPBCS, it changes the calculation strategy completely. Hybrid aggregation dynamically calculates many parent members during retrieval instead of storing everything in advance. This means full database calculation are often unnecessary and can even reduce the performance. In fact, in many EPBCS applications, CalCall is either restricted or not recommended. The CalCall command is not supported in EPBCS application, cloud application. So Oracle is instead encourages target calculation, that is by using a fixed statement, aggregation commands, and lightweight dynamic member formulas. So the modern question is no longer should I use CalCall or script? The better question is what is the minimum calculation required to produce the correct result efficiently? So let's look at a realistic example. Imagine a workforce planning application where actual data is loaded for a completed month while forecast data is calculated only for the future periods. So if we run a full calculation across the entire queue, Essbase unnecessarily recalculates the historical actual data, which will never change because historical data will never change and recalculating the historical data doesn't make sense. So instead, a modern hybrid BSO script targets only the required intersections. For example, we can use a fixed statement and give a target combination that it has to calculate only for the forecast, working for a specific year and from which period to which period. This is the forecast period as per this example. And we do write a calculation below the fix, that is we are aggregating entity and employee, which will be aggregating entity and employee dimension, and CalcDim, which will calculate all the account dimensions. So here what we are doing a targeted calculation. So this script calculates only future forecast months, aggregates only the required sparse dimension, and recalculates the account formula in a controlled sequence. This is significantly faster and aligns with hybrid optimization principle. Let's go through another example. So we need to calculate a bonus only when the forecast scenario after HR uploads the compensation assumption. So as it is mentioned, we need to calculate for the forecast months. So we have specified forecast and which version it belongs to. So that is forecast, working, and we need to calculate component adjustment for FY26 and for the forecast months. So this is the targeted combination. And in this we have a logic. Only if the grade is executive, the salary, the bonus should calculate on 0.25. Else for rest of the other grades, it has to be 0.12. So from this, what happens? We are targeting only limited combination. So this type of conditional business logic cannot be efficiently managed through a simple outline aggregation alone. So this kind of logic we cannot achieve through a outline. calculation. Just by handling plus minus, it may not be possible. For the selected calculations, we need to go to a business logic. So outline formulas are still extremely important in hybrid BSO, especially for the lightweight calculations. For example, gross margin, which is nothing but revenue minus COGS, and similarly headcount ratio, revenue per employee, variance calculation. So gross margin formula remains same regardless of what scenario we are looking into. It can be actual, it can be a forecast, or it can be a plan. But my gross margin calculation is very simple. That is revenue minus cost of goods sold. Similarly, headcount ratio, revenue per employee, percentage KPI, all this remain, the calculation or the formula remains consistent. So we can use outline formula or outline logic for this formula. So dynamic formulas will work very efficiently in hybrid because parent aggregation often happens dynamic during the retrieval. But for heavy allocations, iterative logic, or the data movement or scenario specific processing, scripts remains essential. So one more important distinction is the maintainability. So outline formulas are stored directly inside the outline and are easier for administrator to audit quickly. But the script logic lives separately in a business rule or in a calculation script, which means proper naming standards, documentation, and version control becomes extremely important in enterprise applications. So the modern best practice for EPBCS hybrid BSO is we need to start with the lightest possible solution. That is by understanding or analyzing the business requirement, and if possible use the outline formula if we are able to achieve in the outline itself, or else use a targeted fixed base script for controlled calculation, and we need to avoid the full cube calculation unless absolute necessary. So the target script by using fixed statement, aggregation, calcdim, and we need to validate and optimize the script and the outline to get the better performance. So one of the most common mistake the new developers make is by bringing the old premise BSO habits into hybrid cloud application by writing large unnecessary calculations that defeat hybrid optimization benefit. So efficient EPBCS development is no longer about calculating everything. It's about calculating only what is necessary. So in the next video, we will dive into the fixed statements, which is one of the most powerful tool in any Essbase script. So understanding fix is what separates the basic script from the optimized one, because we calculate only the target combination, not the entire database. See you in the next video.